Use. Probably heard of the King James Bible. Maybe you grew up with one in your house, or maybe you just recognize its unique, almost poetic language. But have you ever wondered where it came from? This isn't just a story about a book. It's a story of political power, religious conflict, and a king's ambition to shape a nation and a language forever. To understand why the King James Bible was even necessary, we have to go back to the early 1600s. Imagine England as a giant pressure cooker of religious tension when King James VI of Scotland also became King James I of England in 1603. He inherited a real mess. The country was deeply divided. You had the established Church of England, but then you had a very vocal and growing group called the Puritans. They felt the Church hadn't gone far enough in its reforms and was still too similar to the Catholic Church. Adding to the chaos was the Bible itself. There wasn't just one accepted English Bible. There were several, and they all had their own flavor. The most popular one among the common people was the Geneva Bible. It was small, affordable, and packed with study notes in the margins. The problem for King James? Those notes were heavily influenced by John Calvin and often challenged the authority of kings. The official church Bible was the Bishop's Bible, but honestly, nobody really liked it. It was clunky and not very popular. So you had a divided country with divided Bibles. He needed to unite his kingdom, and he believed a single, authoritative Bible was the key. His chance came just a year later, in 1604. At a place called Hampton Court, the king called a conference to listen to the Puritans' complaints. For 3 long days, they debated theology and church practice. James, who believed strongly in the divine right of kings, shot down most of the Puritan demands. But then, on the second day, the leader of the Puritan delegation, a man named John Reynolds, made a suggestion. He proposed that a new, single translation of the Bible be created for the whole kingdom. For the Puritans, this was about getting a more accurate text. But for King James, a light bulb went on. He immediately seized the idea. This was his golden opportunity. A new Bible, authorized by him, could replace the troublesome Geneva Bible and its anti-royalist notes. It could unify the sparring religious factions under one text. And, perhaps most importantly, it would forever link his name, King James, with the Word of God in the English language. It wasn't just a religious project. It was a brilliant political power move to secure his legacy. The king declared that a new translation would be made, and it would be the best one the world had ever seen. And so, the great work began. This was not a task for a small committee. King James assembled a true dream team of about 47 of the most brilliant scholars and linguists in his kingdom. These weren't just random clergymen. They were the top experts in Hebrew, Greek, and ancient languages from the prestigious universities of Oxford and Cambridge, as well as from Westminster. To ensure the highest quality and prevent any one group's bias from dominating, the scholars were divided into 6 separate groups, or companies. 2 at Oxford, 2 at Cambridge, and 2 at Westminster. Each company was assigned a different section of the Bible to translate. For example, one group at Westminster tackled Genesis through 2 Kings, while a group at Cambridge handled the New Testament epistles. Their instructions were very clear. This wasn't to be a radical new translation from scratch. Instead, it was to be a revision of the best translations that came before it. Primarily the Bishop's Bible, but also drawing from others like William Tyndale's pioneering work. In fact, it's estimated that a staggering 80 to 90% of the King James New Testament is taken directly from Tyndale's translation from the 1520s. Tyndale was a true hero of the English Bible, martyred for his work decades earlier. The King James translators were, in their own words, standing on the shoulders of giants. The process itself was incredibly rigorous. Each scholar in a company would first produce their own individual translation of a passage. Then, The entire company would meet, discuss, and debate every single word until they reached a consensus. But it didn't stop there. Once a company finished a book, they sent it to the other 5 companies for review and feedback. It was a multi-layered system of peer review designed to ensure accuracy, clarity, and consistency. This whole meticulous process took 7 long years. It was a monumental undertaking, a true labor of love and scholarship. Finally, in 1611, the day arrived. The King James Version of the Bible was published. The original title was simply the Holy Bible, containing the Old Testament and the New. It was a massive book, designed to be read from the church pulpit, not carried around in your pocket. These first editions, often called He-Bibles due to a printing variant in the Book of Ruth, contained 80 books in total, the 39 books of the Old Testament, the 14 books of the Apocrypha, and the 27 books of the New Testament. The new translation was celebrated for its majestic, poetic language and its faithful rendering of the original texts. It aimed for a dignified, formal tone that was suitable for public worship, a quality that still resonates with readers today. However, even a masterpiece created by 47 scholars over 7 years can have a few hiccups, especially in the early days of printing. One of the most famous mistakes occurred in a 1631 printing. The printers, Robert Barker and Martin Lucas, accidentally omitted a single, crucial 3-letter word from the 10 Commandments. Their version of Exodus 20:14 read, "Thou shalt commit adultery." When the error was discovered, King Charles I was furious. The printers were stripped of their license, dragged to court, and fined a massive £300, that's like $50,000 in today's money. This infamous edition became known as the Wicked Bible, and most copies were ordered to be burned, making the few that survive incredibly valuable today. It's a powerful reminder that even the most sacred projects are touched by human error, despite a slow start. The Geneva Bible remained popular for a few more decades. The King James Version eventually won out. By the mid-1600s, it had become the undisputed Bible of the English-speaking world, and its impact on culture has been simply immense. You may not even realize how much of your daily language comes directly from its pages. You ever said something was a drop in the bucket? Or warned against the blind leading the blind? Ever talked about the writing on the wall, an eye for an eye? Or referred to someone as my brother's keeper? All of those phrases, and hundreds more, were popularized by the King James Bible. It so deeply embedded itself into our language that its rhythms and expressions became a core part of how we speak and write. Its influence extends far beyond just common phrases. The KJV was the Bible of Shakespeare's later contemporaries, the founding fathers of the United States, and Abraham Lincoln, who quoted it extensively in his speeches. Its powerful prose influenced centuries of literature. From John Milton's Paradise Lost to Herman Melville's Moby Dick. It became a cornerstone of Western civilization. Even today, over 400 years after its publication, the King James Bible remains incredibly popular. A 2014 study found that an astonishing 55% of American Bible readers still choose the KJV. More than double the next most popular version, the NIV. From a king's political ambition and a desire to quell religious fighting came a work of profound scholarship and literary beauty. The 47 scholars who worked for 7 years didn't just create another translation. They created a masterpiece that unified a church, shaped a language, and left a legacy that has endured for centuries. One king, one decision, and a book that changed the world. Thanks for watching. If you found this history interesting, please give this video a like and subscribe for more stories behind the things that shape our world. What's your favorite Bible translation or your favorite phrase that comes from the KJV? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time.